Da. Let me finish updating this first. Da. Just updating the sites that I posted this on, so that way Jam has her proper bus size. There we go. Alright. If I need to repost on the other ones, I'll do it later. Hello. Just updating the sites to give Jam her proper bus size. Oh yeah, I should replace that. Copy, no Bible. Alright. What to draw for the morning? Let's see, let's deep dive into my character lists. Da, da, da. I haven't done a stream of Marci, have I? Let me double check. Pretty sure I haven't. Double checking. No, I have not. Okay, we'll do a Marci stream. Let me just grab reference. I have more reference than I could possibly need. Anyway, I hope you're doing well. Having a good morning, afternoon, or evening. I just got up not too long ago, and right now I'm drinking a double shot of coffee, so I'll probably perk up more pretty soon. Let's see, what's a really good reference to use? That was a good one. Alright. So let's close this. New. Yeah, I was basically doing the same thing when I had jobs like that. Alright, so let's draw Marci having a morning snack. Ooh, this would be funny, have Skylar catching her. Like Skylar taking a picture of her doing something. Or getting caught snacking. And I'll have him like make a comment saying like, you couldn't wait till dinner, could you? And I've decided to make my Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays no streams, so that way I can have more time to work on stuff that I can't stream. So that'll be the new setup. So Monday through Thursday is when I'll be streaming like this. That'll be the plan, unless, you know, something comes up like birthdays or emergencies, that kind of thing. Muzzle more rounded. Marci naturally has big chubby cheeks, so we'll round this out before we do adjustments. Change this a bit to make it look more like her cheeks are stuffed. Probably adjust this cheek later down the line. Yeah, I'll leave it alone for now until I draw the rest of her body. And let's make a save file before I forget. Let's call it caught. So good morning, hello. guy's a little bit bigger. Yes, you do. Smooth this out a bit more. Fat cheeks. And round out her chin a little bit more. Would squish gently. I mean, she'd probably end up squishing you. Okay. Trying to get her pose right. I'll likely make the canvas bigger, but baby steps. And chubby cheeks, kissable, very squishable. Yep. And she's a cat, so she'll be purring if she likes it. And, you know, the typical cuddles. Take your time. Literally just started only 22 minutes ago, so got a long stream ahead of us. Fat women cuddle better. Just get a big woman plus her being a cat plus whatever else you need, and there you go. It's like perfection. Cat girl, perfection. Anyway. I know it's early. Okay. So yeah, this is gonna be a interesting pick. So let's see, her arms are pretty thick. You know what, let's just make this canvas bigger because I already know I'm gonna need to. Change, I'm probably gonna need this much just to get it right. And then I'll shrink it down for whatever I don't need. Though her hair needs to be a little bit more out. Because she has decently long hair. Like, it's not super long, but not short either. I mean, medium obviously would be the word for it. So let's see. I'll just draw her arm and fix it once I know where I want it. I'm trying. I'm thinking of taking Friday, Saturday, and Sundays off from streaming, so that way I have time to draw stuff that I can't stream. So that way I have more time for that. And then for streams, it'll basically be random stuff, whether it be comic stuff or just random doodles like this. Alright, so probably adjust this later, but Marci is rather busty nowadays. So let's just draw her chest now, and we can fix the hand or do the rest of the hand later. Is Mama Marci definitely dwarfs her younger version, her younger days. And honestly, this still looks too small, so let's bust this up more. This seems about right. Can always fix it later. Big booba is good booba. And so are small booba too. Gotta support flat justice or anything in between. As well as pear shapes. Pear shapes are good ones too. Comic cat. Yeah, like I've said in many streams, I like pretty much most body types, if not all, because there's always something attractive about them that you can find. So whether they're top heavy, bottom heavy, or whatever combinations of body types, there's always something you can find that you can enjoy. Otherwise, I wouldn't have characters like Kiwi and Stacy, who are flat. There we go. Let's angle this a bit more. I'll probably have her tilted a little bit more, but for now this is fine. Turn this down to my ear. There we go. And bring her up here. There we go. And since she's at home, she's not going to care too much about her appearance. Let's lessen that a little bit. And I'll fix her arm a little later down the line. Let's see, she usually has a rather large midriff. It's more like this. But it's kind of hanging. We're gonna have to need a bigger canvas for this, or at least length or height wise. Chin size, go this way. I'm just giving myself as much space as I need, and then I'll adjust later. There we go. Just drawing what I need. Since let's tilt her a little bit, because I want her like almost trying to hide what she's doing. So that means her stomach would be... God dang. Wrong pen. There we go. She would be having some gravity. So if she's like that, that means this would be going this way. Do you ever have intentions or want to do Artist Alley stuff? Maybe someday. The only hassle is just, you know, figuring out how to how much of something I would need to print, and then how to transport all that stuff and setting up a booth, because I've never done anything like that. I do have a friend who does do conventions rather often, so if I ever decide to go through with it, I can talk to her about it. So maybe someday. If I do, I'll probably like print out the some of the collector's sets or something, or whatever I think would be interesting to print out. Book-wise, that's a whole other issue, because I gotta... If I ever try printing I-Hat-1, for example, I gotta fix the page sizes for a lot of the earlier stuff. Because back then, I was not paying attention to pixel size. Because for me, whenever I looked at images, the like whatever program you use to look at pictures, that would just adjust to your screen size. So I never really thought about it until much later. So yeah, I've thought about it, just there's a lot to consider if I do. Alright, Marci, you got a huge bottom belly. And then I still gotta adjust for other things like angle. Oh really? Yeah, I have no idea if I would go out of range of like my home. Like whatever the closest convention is, I would probably go to that. But that'd be pretty much it. I don't see myself flying out anywhere unless it's like something very specific. Oh yes, this is gonna be a giant taking. So yeah, I need to fix a lot of this. So let's... Oh yeah, there's so much that needs fixing here. Let's fix all this. This is all wrong. So let's see about squishing it. See if that'll help. I'm gonna have to be really zoomed out for this. Just so I can see what I'm doing. So change my eraser size. But that's like the small advantage of digital stuff, is that if you're unable to go somewhere to get something specific, at least you can get it digitally. And then if you're worried about digital not lasting or something, then whatever you download, you can print it, so that way you have a physical version. So all you'd really need, like obviously if you're getting risque stuff and you don't want certain people to see, then you just have to invest in a printer. Okay, let me just draw her belly so that way I can at least know what shape I'm going for. There we go. So we got that. Want this. And then we'll have her wearing her sweatpants. stretchy pants, whatever she's wearing. And then have it go over here. And then she has rather large assets, so let's curve it this way so that way we can, and probably be a little bit more angled than that. So about here should do it. And then be her ass. And then we can work on her thighs a little later. There we go. Oh yes. Still got many tweaks to do to this. So end result will be rather interesting. Because most of her gut goes past a certain point. And I'm trying to get the peak of her dip. Let's see. I think it'd be about like this. And there'll be a job. Hey. Well, she's snacking before dinner. And she's trying to be sneaky about it, but got caught. Not that it matters overall in her case, but it's still funny for her to look like she wasn't being a bit of a foodie about it. I know, right? It's almost like Marci knew. She's like, you know what? You're having a bad day. How about I make it better? And let's be honest, if Skylar was at work, you know, doing his food stuff all day, having, you know, just a bad day of like, you know, bad customers or whatever the case may be, it's always gonna please him to come home to his wife, big kitty, and just sink himself into her belly or any other part of her. Could see him just plopping himself on the bed or couch, and then she just comes over and gets on top of him and starts purring, and he just like can't be upset after that point. Or it'd take a lot of effort for him to be still mad. It's almost like that one meme is like, "Oh, you okay? Fat? Do you want to touch fat? Belly? You want to touch the belly?" Let's smooth this out just a little bit more. There we go. Yep. And I'm fully aware that the proportions of my characters are ridiculously inconsistent. Like, obviously, this Marci looks like height-wise and body type-wise would be drastically different if I were to to take her body proportions into account. Like, I'm fully aware of all that. If I were to make her, like, accurate, like, super accurate, then... Let me just see, hypothetically. So probably, like... Let's say about here to here. Would probably be, like, much further up. This would probably be slimmed down a bit. So, like, hold on. So let's copy this. And let's turn down her opacity just so we can get a better look at this. So realistically, all of this would probably be much higher up. Condensed to be closer to her actual, like, you know, length of her body type of thing. It'd probably be like this. So I could do it that way. This is just more of an exaggeration. Yeah, same. Like, if I want to pay attention to that, I will. Mostly when it's necessary in the comic, but when it's just dumb fun like this, I don't really pay too much attention. It's mostly in the comics I try to pay attention. I know I've messed up dozens of times in the comics. Whether it be accidentally giving Apricot small arms, or Marci's body not making sense when she's standing in full view. And like if we were to go like her proportions, it would be like all over the place, because I understand like most of the time it's like you have big character, like jumbo thighs, big arms like that, and like I don't know, we see the feet down here. And then it's like, okay, so skeleton wise, it'd be like somehow the real body is like this. You go like that. Like some of it wouldn't make sense, especially if like the thighs go much further past all that. So I get it. I'm not oblivious to it. Sometimes I try to pay attention to it, other times I ignore it. Most of the time I'm just going by visuals, like whatever looks good to me. Looks half the size of what I drew. Exactly. Exactly. So I'm definitely overly exaggerating. Who knows, maybe I'll adjust it later down the line during this. But for now, I'm just kind of going with the flow. Don't need this here. At least not like that. Yeah. And again, like, this is more of an exaggerated moment. In the comics, I probably at least try to pay attention. That's why, even though there's moments where you see her, like, really big like this, when she's standing next to Skylar, then she's a little bit more adjusted to be closer to her actual size when they're standing next to each other. That's usually when her actual size comes up. Outside of that, anytime she's like just alone in a picture, that's when most things are exaggerated, because there's nothing to reference her actual size. So it was just like a void. I think the only other time is when she destroyed the chair. But yeah, most of the time when she's alone in a picture, it's pretty exaggerated. Yeah, that's true. Because he's like, what, 6 foot something? Let me check. Bios. I might need to move these bios into their respective areas just so I know where to find them easier. So, true ending Skylar is 6'10". According to me. You know my measurements are kind of bullshit at this point. Well, he's definitely shorter than 7 foot because Viro is at least 7 foot. And I definitely didn't want Skylar being as tall or taller than him. Let's see. Where's Viro's bio? Viro is 7'4". So, and for the most part, when it comes to measurements, the bios are just kind of bullshit because there's only so much I can do to try to be accurate. Because it gets to a point where I don't know how to reference certain sizes. And so either I'm just guesstimating on how big it would be, or I'm just bullshitting or don't even say how big they are, such as with like Yorjadov, for example. It's like, how big is she? It's like, minimum a planet. Which planet, I do not know. Because that can be up in the air. It's like, if it's bigger than Earth, then that's kind of all that matters. Skylar all is like, yeah, Skylar, you're not going to be taller than Viro. He will tower over you. Okay, so yeah, this is all exaggerated. But in the comics, I will at least attempt to be accurate to their intended sizes. Like, I can't say it'd be accurate because, again, there's a point where I just don't know what that would look like to me in real life because I don't have a reference to make it accurate. But I'll at least try to be as close to the intended sizes for the characters as I can. Give her a little bit of fat underneath her arms. So yeah, how can Skylar stay mad when he comes home to something like this? Yeah, I could try to just do that where I just say short. Well, when it comes to height, it's a little bit easier. It's more about the other measurements, like, you know, bust, waist, and hips and all that. It's more about those measurements that get difficult. Okay, so where would I want? Let's have her have a shirt. And let's just make her shirt go here. Would be funny if Skylar purposely swaps some of Marci's clothes every once in a while with something smaller, just so you can see. If I really wanted to go deep into the bio stuff, I should have probably added blood type. But I would have to like look up personality charts just to see which blood types fit the most for certain characters. Or like their zodiac sign or something. It's like, oh, Marci was born in this month or whatever. Their birthdays I just go off of based of their first appearance. So like Marci's would be in August or something like that. I think it's like August 15th or something. If I remember correctly, I could be wrong. Okay, so let's have her shirt squeezing her pudge. Skylar, oh no, not again. I mean, it's not like Skylar has to buy smaller clothes for her. He could just, you know, fatten her up even more. But it's a little bit funnier if he just swaps out her clothes every once in a while. But just like the basic stuff, so nothing like, you know, something that would be unique or expensive. He would just swap out the casual stuff for when she's not trying to go anywhere or just lounge around the house. And she gets like, oh, pissy. She's like, what the hell? This fit last week. But then she's like, well, I did have that one. I did eat like a whole table of pork and whatever else Skylar made. So she probably just think about it and be like, well, it is my fault. It's not like she can make a real excuse about it. So, but it's all dumb fun. Alright, so probably have like a tank top going this way. Oh yeah, definitely a button-down shirt. She's probably had it with button-down shirts unless she's trying to be kinky. She's like, oh, I know what Skylar likes. Wears a button shirt. And then goes to town on something. Because that will press his buttons very easily. Shirt would bunch up a bit. A little bit of fluff. There's a lot of creases. Pretty sure it's illegal for fat girls to wear button-up shirts. Wrong room is a lethal weapon. But yeah, I could totally see like Marci's waiting for Skylar to get home so he can make like a special dinner or something, and she gets a little antsy, so she goes and starts snacking on, I don't know, something like dessert, like a box of like cookies or something. And then Skylar gets home earlier than usual, and he catches her in the kitchen. elastic band. This would probably be a little bit closer to the edge based on her angle. So a little bit more like this. Let's tilt it. So about here. Marci's gotten really good at sewing buttons. She probably had to tend to her kids' clothes a couple of times because Marcel is on the thick side in terms of, or like, you know, hourglass curvy side. And then Alara is bottom heavy. I can see Alara being embarrassed about it, and Marci's just like, "Look, sweetie, here's a fabulous story about this," and takes her to a BBW store. Because in Marci's case, Marci has to go to places that are made for like hippos and stuff like that, to her embarrassment. Like she was embarrassed at first. Now that she doesn't care. She's like, yeah, I'm a big bitch. Fuck it. Not that Skylar's complaining. The only thing that's complaining is his wallet. He's like, fuck, I gotta cook more food. This is getting expensive. Or sell more food. It's getting expensive. Take her to Big Bitches. Yeah, there's just definitely gonna be a store just called Big Bitches. Because why not? Like, if there can be a real life store called Fat Burger, then there's gonna be a store called Big Bitches. Like, come on. Like, who are we getting? That doesn't look right. Let's do it this way. Hello, welcome. Alright, so let's go back up here. And Marci holding a box of treats that she shouldn't be having right now. Let me draw the box. Let me position her hand better. Let's do that for now. Let's be honest, the box would be much bigger than this. She'd probably just be holding it against her with how big it is. Yeah. Luckily, Blake can help her out. Because before Blake, they were probably a little bit tight on spending. And only like every once in a while could Skylar spoil her. Which is fine for Marci, because that way it kind of makes it more like a special occasion type of thing. And then when Marci returns to her life, she can help out Marci every once in a while. It's like, here at Big Bitches, we have clothing for all sizes. Are you a whale? We got sizes for that. Are you a hippo? Definitely got that. Elephant? Get out of here. We still have those sizes. It doesn't matter how big you are. We got the size for it. And for good prices too. We even figured out how to manufacture a synthetic material to lower costs. You're good. So, God, it reminds me of those what are they called? The interdimensional commercials from Rick and Morty. I don't want to look like a weirdo. I'll just get the moo. No, I think she would avoid the moo. She'd rather just get something that just emphasizes her curves. She's like, you know what? If I'm gonna wear big fucking clothes, then I might as well roll with it. No pun intended. She's like, fine, if people are gonna call me fat, then they're gonna look at my fat ass. She wears some tight clothing. Or stretchy clothing that hugs her curves. And then there's always like the cases where like I could draw a scene where Marci's younger and she's going to the store to get more clothes, and then like, you know, teenagers are teasing her, but then Skylar shows up to after buying the clothes and they think he's hot, and you're like, what the hell, she's with him? And they just think like, fuck. Okay, so yeah, I think I need to make her boobs just a little bit bigger. So we'll do that in a moment. Yeah. Don't want to interfere with her chest too much. Maybe I'll increase the length just a bit, but definitely gonna make her boobs a little bit bigger. Exactly. I could see that if she did get a moo-moo and her kids were like still really young, they would like hide under her or something. And then Skylar would get home, he's like, oh, are you girls having fun with your tent? And Marci just glares at him. I still like that one picture of Marci having the girls on top of her as they were trying to wait for Santa, but they fell asleep. Oh yeah, that would be funny. I'm doing alright. Just working on this, just making this picture for today. Oh yes, Alara ripping her pants and trying not to be embarrassed. And Marci's like, don't worry, sweetie, this is normal. She's like, I've been there. And Alara is just like, I can't believe that happened. And of course Marci pays for the ripped jeans. And Alara's like, I'm sorry. And she's like, no, we can fix them. And then if she ever hangs out with Blake, Blake is already proficient at sewing as well. And then, of course, you know, her family runs a fashion business. So she probably gets, like, really good deals for, like, goth-themed outfits. Fix the angle on this a little bit. Seriously, Sonic R music was like peak music for Sonic, like way ahead of its time. That's why I miss the 90s feel for the Sonic games, because like imagine if they made like a modern Sonic game in the style, in like the art style of Sonic CD, but it's done the way that like Arc System Works would do their 3D, their anime 3D. So just like imagine that, but for a Sonic game. Like that would be the sickest fucking game. And like some fans have made a fan game with that style, so it is doable. Just my biggest issue with a lot of modern Sonic is that you have these gigantic levels, but you blaze through them so quickly that there's no like exploration compared to like the Genesis games. And granted, you could still blaze through the levels if you tried, but there's just like a lot more to look through in the Genesis games. So if somehow I was able to make a Sonic game, I would try to focus a little bit more on environmental exploration. Like have the speedy moments, but also have like the world building moments for a level. Okay, so realistically, if she's turning while being caught, then her breast would probably be like this. And this would probably remain the same because the box is in the way. But we can push this out a bit more. So something like this. That should be fine. Alright, so she's obviously turning. Hold on, let me try to account for this. Grab another soundtrack. I know I'm playing the same things over and over. I'm trying to avoid copyright nonsense. Actually, let's just leave it alone. But yeah, definitely. Big old cookie. Yeah, that sounds about right. That was like actually focused on you running around, yeah. And not just like blazing through the level. Like 06 kinda had that to a degree, but a lot of it was more just you're trapped in a room with a bunch of enemies and you can only progress when the enemies die, and that's kinda it. Because Sonic Adventure had moments where you had to like look around for switches and solve puzzles. Trying to think if there was like more to other Sonic games, but it's been a while. Right? Scott. She's like, well, you're the one that took so long. And Skylar's like, I'm only 5 minutes late. 5 minutes is a long time, Skylar. I could have starved. Hello. And then Skylar just prepares her a feast for her to wolf down. And like the girls quickly knew what their father's type was. It's like, oh yeah, we know his type. Obviously. I mean, obviously that's how they have a mom, but but it'd be more like direct. Like they grew up with her always eating a bunch of food, but they didn't like piece things together why until later. And that's because their dad's a freak. Anyway. 5 minutes, you took my only food. Now I'm gonna starve. That was so funny with Patrick. Oh yeah. Can totally see the conversations between Marci and her mom before her and Skylar moved in together. Of her mom trying to put her on a diet. And then having her looked at by a doctor, and only for the doctor to say that Marci is perfectly healthy. Aside from how her weight is. It's like, well, other than her weight, she's perfectly healthy. And she's like, what? How? Yeah, actually, it's fine to keep her hand like that. Maybe just a little angle there. I can see Marci's dad trying to defend her. Where he's like, well, you know, sometimes kids just blow up, and you know, it has nothing to do with what they've been eating. And then Marci's mom just glares at him, going like, you can't possibly be serious and think that this is normal. And then that's when she gets a little suspicious of Skylar, but she has nothing to go off of other than Marci constantly eating his food. And it's like, well, she can't really blame Skylar if Marci's the one eating it, but she doesn't know that Marci's being affected by the food. I think that would be the only thing that would keep Marci's mom from eating Skylar's food, is because she's not super suspicious of the food. And like, she might try it at some point just to see how good it is, because Marci is probably always like raving about it. But I'm sure Skylar would be careful about doing that. About letting Marci's mom get exposed. And there's probably like no real reason why he would act that way. It's just like an instinct thing, or like he just has like a intuition. He's just like, I feel that if she finds out what I can do, that'd be a bad thing. So I'm just gonna avoid that as much as I can. But unfortunately, even if Marci's mom doesn't know about it, Blake knows about it. And Skylar is definitely afraid of Blake more than Marci's mom. Yeah, like he like Marci's dad can find like a rationalization to it, whereas Crystal doesn't really have a way to explain it for her family side, because a lot of her family members either don't actually exist in terms of like her being actually related to them, because that's more of a cover-up thing because of her occupation, or they're probably deceased at this point. Because like Marci's air quotes grandma is more of a agent for when Marci's mom had to do jobs. So whether or not Marci's grandma is actually her grandma is up in the air on if she's actually related to her. But you do have like Martin's parents for her to go off of, so it could be that. Yeah, that could see Martin doing that. Like once he started having a daughter who's much bigger than you would expect, I could see him like developing better equipment, or better like furniture and seating equipment for bigger body people, which ends up probably making a decent amount of money. Not sure if it'd be like for Martin specifically or for whatever company he ends up working for. but definitely a good motivator. Whereas like, well, I have a daughter who's on the very big side, and so they have her or anyone who's a similar size test out the new equipment. Likely he would just have like people who are similar size to Marci, that way he doesn't embarrass Marci. Because I don't see, realistically, I don't see him having her test him. But I can see her like noticing that furniture is a lot more durable over time. And then maybe she learns about her father's furniture occupation later down the line. So yeah, I could see something like that going on. I'd say probably column A and column B. Like, you could have, like, the grandma on her dad's side being for it, and then, like, her grandpa being like, is she okay? She's huge. He's like, what have you been feeding this girl? He'd be like, she's as big as the house, and he's like, whatever name I'd give him. I'm just gonna say Richard for the sake of the conversation. He'd be like, Richard. He's like, what? It's like, what? I'm not being mean. Look at her. And then either Marci's mom or dad would clarify. He's like, no, she just has a boyfriend who likes to cook a lot, and she likes to indulge in his cooking a lot. Yeah. Alright, so got all that. Do more details of the shirt and fix it up a bit. I know this is gonna look horrible when I zoom in, because there's gonna be a lot of sketch marks and rough spots, but that's kinda comes with the territory for drawing so zoomed out. But kinda had to in order to get her body in view, so I knew where I was going. That right there. And then if we're going by after Skylar and Marci are dating or married, then, you know, Skylar's side of the family is just gonna adore Marci regardless. Because Skylar's dad is like, apple didn't fall far from the tree. That's my boy, and gets him a beer. And then Jupiter just loves cats. And Marci, being a big fluffy kitty, just makes it better. Growth spurt, exactly. My question is, how do they make sense of her getting that big in such a short amount of time? Yeah, that would raise a bit of question, but they'll probably just dump, like, without any evidence of anything other than her eating excessively, they're likely just going to chop it down to a growth spurt. And, like, even if a doctor, or even if Crystal took her to a doctor is just going to say, well, you know, maybe she just started growing a little bit later or something, or you know, could be genetic. And then try to put her on a diet, but, you know, her fat ass ain't gonna stick to a diet with Skylar around. It's like, oh yeah, diet. We'll see how long that lasts. It'll last a good 10 seconds. Or however long it takes between Marci going to a doctor and Marci hanging out with Skylar for an afternoon or evening. It's like she ain't shrinking down with Skylar around. How big do I make my art? As big as I need to. But so far, Yorjadov's artwork is the biggest. And the funny part is I had to actually shrink down her art when I was drawing it, because it was actually making my computer slow with how big it was. So I had to like reduce it by like, I don't know, half I think it was. Kayla is from Bora Bora Honeymoon. It's a video on YouTube. I can grab it for you. It's a Vor animation. Bora. Yeah, let me grab it for you. Pause. No, I don't want that. I just want the normal video. Copy. There you go. Alright, so what are we thinking? Shorts or big long sweats? Or like big long leggings, whatever you want to call them. Or long stock, I don't know. I'm just gonna go with sweats. That's what I assume they are. They are called. Or yoga pants, there we go. Shorts or yoga pants. Well, it was really flat before, so you know, doctor's right about this growth spurt thing. Don't push it, sweetie. So I had pretty small boobs, and now they're huge. And Crystal's just like, no. It's like, if there's any constellation, now I have big tits. And you know how I was whining about that for when I was younger. Crystal's like, no. It's like, when am I gonna get big boobs? It's like, you'll grow when it happens, sweetie. Cut to now. Just be like, well, at least they're big now. Her big old thick thighs. No, not thong, because this is on YouTube. Well, I mean, even if I did put out a thong, it's not like we're gonna see anything, but no, put her in more casual clothing. Save the thong for sexy time. Although, with that said, it's not like the thong's gonna do it. If I were to put a thong on her, it'd be like just a fucking line. Just squeezing her body. Okay, so we can probably shrink down the canvas size. About here. And then we'll fix up her ass. Booty shorts. Yeah, we'll go with shorts then. Could see Skylar making like stupid jokes. They're like, "Damn, Marci, you're caked up." Oh wait, you did just eat a whole cake. And she'd be like, "Shut up." And then he'd be like, "You still hungry?" As he grins, knowing that she is hungry because of his influence, and she'll just be like, all embarrassed and say yes. Okay, let's fix her belly a bit. Like, you know, Skylar is just having the time of his life in this scenario. He's like, this is the best life. Ooh, I have drank way too much coffee, and I still have coffee left. But I am feeling it. Yeah, it's a really nice animation. There's some rough spots here and there, but that's fine. I don't expect it to be super amazing. Because there's like some spots that kind of look like they're floating heads on top of like more hand-drawn animation moments. Like almost like there was two different animators for the scene type of thing. But other than that, I still enjoyed it. No, go away. But yeah, I've been wanting to draw Kayla for so long. I tried looking up her damn name because Howard's name or Harold's name shows up in the animation, but not hers. And so I had to like guess on how to spell her first name, but at least the last name I could get because they're married. So I'm like, okay, cool. At least I know her fucking last name, but spelling her first name was just a giant guess because I don't know. I tried looking for it. Yeah. Eventually, I would like to have like a similar thing with Marci and Skylar. Like they go on like a honeymoon trip, and I could see like they're given like a nice little dinner, but Marci, you could see Marci being a bit upset, and Skylar's like, What's wrong?" She's like, the dinner's nice and all, but it's not as good as yours. And so Skylar gets an idea, and I don't know, let's just say he pays the staff to let him use their kitchen, and he makes like a bunch of food for her and stuff, and it like looks all excellent, and you can see her just enjoying herself. But then like the cooks and all that ask Skylar if they can serve the rest of what he's made or whatever. Like, let's just say Marci had her fill and there was still like much left over. He says, "Yeah, knock yourselves out." And then like towards the end of the story, you see some of the other tourists being a little bit bigger from eating Skylar's food. As they're like getting ready to go home. And you just see like a bunch of fatter people roaming around. Because he didn't intend on giving it to them, he intended on giving it to Marci. So whatever effects happen to them is just kind of up in the air on how much they ate. Marci have her fill now. I know, right? But Skylar likes to like have like a certain rule set. Well, not rules, but like a little limit for her. Like, basically, she just devours as much as he wants her to devour, and then he'll give her something that tops her off. Like what happened with the muffin. Or the donut in Chapter 4. I think it was a donut. It's been a while since I looked at Chapter 4. And then have this squeezing on her figure. Yeah, I think it was a eclair. That's what was coming to mind. Because in the earlier days, Skylar had a hard time keeping his ability in check because when he got super passionate, that's when it would make Marci try to cram more food in her mouth than her mouth could hold, and she would almost choke. So he had to like snap her out of it. But later down the line, he got a better hang of it. So now he can control whether or not it affects somebody in that way. There we go. Yeah, you usually just kind of see them on the side, and you don't actually see characters eat them too often, from what I've noticed. And most of the time, it's like, you know, the standard stuff like pizza, donuts, chips, cake, maybe ham, like the typical meat stuff. That's weird. Do it like this first. Yeah, it's like he was he was taking advantage of making her fatter and fatter, but to her benefit, she gets to be with the guy that she's had a huge crush on. So as far as she's concerned, this is a win-win. Yeah, she's gonna blow up like a whale, but she doesn't care. And then once he knows that she likes him for him and not just, you know, what he can do for her, whether it be like providing food or taking her out to dinner and stuff like that, that's how they gel more. So he gets to enjoy like basically the perfect woman in his eyes. And then she has her dream lover. So at first it was more about manipulation, but then it later on just becomes actual romance. And then she ends up liking getting fatter. Like at first she was freaking out about it, but then, you know, she's enjoying herself. And it could be some influence from Skylar on why she's enjoying herself, like, because, you know, he can make it like ecstasy or whatever if he wants. But when you have the moments when she's not around Skylar, that's how you know that she's actually into it. So it's definitely the moments when she's not around Skylar that helps. Marci's the best woman for anyone. Take your time. Alright, let's add a bit of fluff. Trying to angle it so that it makes sense. There we go. Just a ton of creases here because of her folds. It's fine because her ass is doing all that. Would be funny to have Marci hold up her old clothes and see how dramatically smaller they are compared to her body. Let's be a little bit more subtle with this line. Yep. Welcome back. Not sure if I said that earlier. Kind of zoned out for a bit doing this. No. I haven't really changed the darker tone of it, honestly. I'm just going by how I feel goes with the scenario. Because right now with Black Circus, we're definitely going to start getting to the more darker stuff. I would say it's more coincidental with how Patreon was trying to crack down on that. I didn't even notice. I didn't even know Patreon was doing that. I knew Patreon was trying to get all anal about certain furry art for a while, but I think they ran that back after a while when they realized how much of their revenue was coming from stuff like that. Because I know at one point they noticed that and they're like, "Oh shit, let's not do that." And I remember at one point they were gonna make the transaction fees be added to the subscribers, and all of the artists were like, "No, we want we'll take the hit on that. Like, don't do that to the subscribers." It's like, fuck that. Because, like, for example, say I was something was $5, and they would take a percentage out of that. So let's just say they took a percentage, and I would get $4 out of the $5. They were going to make that extra dollar come out of the subscribers rather than the artists. They were going to take that from the subscribers, and all the artists were like, "No, don't fuck with it." And Patreon was like, "Up, okay, we hear you loud and clear. We're not going to fuck with that." So everybody was happy about that when Patreon listened, because that would have been shitty. I know right now the issue is with Apple because of the Patreon app being on the App Store thing, and so Apple or whoever they're hosting takes a cut out of that. So that's why it's better to get it on desktop, because I know that's a thing. And a little bit of fur at the bottom of her belly. There we go. Dang, needs a water. Yeah, it's mostly just because Apple takes a cut from apps being hosted, and sometimes it sucks because they'll take more than what they should be getting, and that unfortunately impacts Patreon creators to a degree. That's why I think this was like a few months ago. Creators were saying that they had to like up the prices a bit because Apple would take a decent chunk out of it on top of the transaction fees that Patreon already takes. Luckily for me, I'm in the veterans category for Patreon, so they only take out like 5%, I think it was. But for people that came in later, I think it's a higher percentage. Let me see how much they take. Let me see. How much? I'm not sure if it'll tell me. 8 to 12 according to this. It says 5% here, but that's usually because of the veterans thing. Unless veterans is lower than that. Let me see if mine will say. Put it over here so it's easier to look at. So let me see if I can take a look at that. Settings. Yeah, mine's founder's plan, so mine's 5%. So I'm not sure if there's information of people having it differently. other than what I found over there. Because I don't know how many people got in on it early. Because if a big chunk of it has, then that's probably why 5% comes up. Alright, so now all that's left is her tail. Which, realistically, it'd probably be above this, wherever this endpoint is. Because her ass could be like this fucking huge, and her tail could be like somewhere over here, going like that. So it could be above her shorts. Wearing gym shorts. It's like, okay, this is when I'm gonna exercise. Same day, just lounging on the couch, eating whatever Skylar made for her previously, waiting for him to get home. As she scratches her belly. She's like, well, she tried. Yeah, I could see her like doing some yoga. Like, she doesn't get winded very easily due to Skylar's influence. So I could see her being a little bit more active than the normal big person. Like, can see like her actually like running decently fast despite her size and confusing the shit out of whoever sees her doing that. Would definitely be a scary scene of somebody stealing her purse, and then she just runs like hell to chase them, and it's just like a giant fucking monster wall heading towards them, or just big old mountain heading towards them. One and snack break. Oh yeah, with the whole Sonic can't catch Robotnik when he's running in Sonic 2. Sonic is like, bullshit. I mean, to be fair, a good chunk of characters in Sonic's universe are decently fast when you think about it. So who's to say Robotnik isn't a decent runner? Because everybody else seems to be able to be quick. And granted, Sonic can go much faster if he wanted to, but most of the time he's slowing down so that everybody else can keep up with him. Because he's more interested in in having others around. I can't remember if this was a canon comic or not. I think it was in the IDW comics, but I think there was a comic where Sonic wanted to do stuff on his own because he was tired of like waiting on others, and so he runs off, and he's doing the stuff he's doing, but he's not like excited about it. He feels like something's missing, and he realizes that he likes having the others tag along. So he purposely makes himself slower just because it's more fun. It's almost like Sebastian from Black Butler, because in it definitely in the recent episode or and in the manga, he's tasked with eliminating a bunch of people, and CL tells him to go wild, and Sebastian makes a comment saying like it's more fun when I have restrictions, because that way he has to get creative or be tame so he doesn't like overdo it, but at the same time, if going overboard is what CL wants, then he'll go crazy. and just, you know, obliterate whoever he's told to kill. But yeah, I can totally see Marci trying to exercise, but then quickly devolve back into her snacking habits. She's like, okay, I finally did 10 push-ups. That deserves a snack break, right? Eats like 10 hot dogs, or, well, let's just be honest, it's not going to be 10, it'd be like at least 30 minimum. And then after she's done eating the hot dog, she's like, oh, I gotta tell Skylar to pick up some more hot dogs. But yeah, I could totally see like Skylar having like sponsored deals and stuff like that in order to accommodate for how much they spend on food alone. And then once Blake comes back into the picture, Blake will have like a funds on the side specifically for helping out Marci, even if she has to like keep it a secret, like it's between her and Skylar. So he's like, look, I'm not gonna intrude on what you're doing, but I'm making sure that she's taken care of. And Skylar's like, alright, true, they have a truce. Well, it's not like they're gonna do anything to each other in the first place. The only time Blake is ever gonna do anything to Skylar is if he hurts Marci. But that ain't happening. So nothing for him to worry about as long as that's taken care of. But if he did, she would most likely do what she told him she was gonna do back at the party. Have him strapped to a bunch of machines as his organs are put on display throughout a room. Like he's kept alive, but all of his organs are like all over the room somewhere, being preserved. Yeah. Like, she wouldn't just straight up give him money, but she'd definitely get him to earn it. Not that it's a problem with him, but he's definitely not stupid. And he's gonna try to manipulate her with his food. That'd be the last thing he would try to make happen. Because you also got to take into account, like, he doesn't know this, but you also got to take into account that it's not just Blake that would be a problem for him. It's her entire family. So if something goes wrong in that area, then Skylar is royally fucked. It's like, you think Blake's a problem, deal with the rest of her family. Okay, so got all that. Can do a little bit of fur over here. Didn't plan to spend so long on the line art, but sometimes it takes time. Trying to see if there's any other spots to focus on. Curve this up a bit. Fucking love this theme. This is like one of the best themes in Sonic. Gamma was such an awesome character. Like, Omega is literally just Gamma at home. And then you mix that theme with E101 and it's a perfect theme. That's how I learned chocolate statues aren't all that tasty. Yeah, I could totally see Marci just going like, eh, chocolate statues are whatever. Granted, Skylar's not giving the common folk or the rich people the good shit. He's pretty much reserved the good shit for Marci unless he feels like going crazy on somebody. Or like makes a few people fat for his amusement. But most of that stuff goes to Marci. Because Marci is his muse. I mean, most of the Creamfolk characters do that. But they have their own gimmicks. Like, the Waking thing is just, like, a given for the Creamfolk cast, because that's literally their purpose, comic-wise. And then their original form had a bit of a snacking habit, probably because of Yorjadoth. Okay, I think I got everything. Looking around to see if anything needs tweaking. A little bit of fur. Trying not to be too obsessive doing this, but sometimes things just feel off when they don't have the fluff. There we go. Let me just clean up some of these lines. I know it's gonna look weird when I zoom in, because they're gonna look rough as fuck. So I could clean them up, but I kind of like the rough look. I mean, I like the rough look in general. And then it looks fine from afar, so it's not that big of a deal. Well, yeah, there is lore that the Dragon God basically made it a thing where male dragons take care of the female dragons and keeping them well fed. So a fat dragon means that the male is doing their job. And then after dragons left the island that they were created on, that kind of like bled into genetics later down the line. So culturally, it is good for dragons to have a fat female. Like, sure, you can have fat males too, but it's mostly the women that they focus on. Add more details for underneath. Because there was that small, I think it was Astacast of Skylar talking to the Dragon God. And he's all like, he doesn't, because the Dragon God doesn't like the bestial versions of dragons, because he thinks it's a bit of an insult to his creations. But he does like the fact that Skylar has definitely inherited the whole fat females thing. So he's like, all right, Skylar, I'll let you live. Like, you've met your quota, or you've met the goal. You can live. And Skylar's just like, thanks. But the Dragon God can basically do whatever he wants to dragons on his island, because he had a bad habit of basically puppeting their lives. Okay, I think we're good now. I can't think of anything else to do unless I'm gonna put little stretch lines on her butt like this. Nothing serious. Alright, so we're pretty much good. So let's tighten the canvas a bit more so that way there's not so much empty space. Not by too much, but just enough. And then I can leave the top alone. Bottom kind of seems a little bit too much, so let's do about here. Alright. So we're good on that. Yeah, there is a tribe in Africa that does do the fattening women thing. I remember seeing that a long time ago on, I think it was on Discovery Channel. I don't even know how I came across it. I just randomly saw it one day, and I was just like, huh, neat. I think it was like, I might have been either in high school or like late junior high when I saw that, and that just stuck with me for life at that point. Oh yeah, definitely. They look at Marci, like, she's definitely got the dragon spirit. Marci being none the wiser about what they mean until Skylar explains that, you know, it's back in the day, like it's a dragon thing to have bigger women. Of course, Mars doesn't exactly fit that criteria. She's bigger in terms of muscle. But you definitely have Jupiter. The documentary changed me neurologically. Maybe. It's always that possibility. I mean, let's be honest. I was likely already into that stuff way before I saw that. I mean, 90s cartoons alone prepared me for all that. Like, 90s cartoons basically already prepared me for furries and practically every goddamn theme possible, because cartoons just did everything. So I was already hooked from the start. And then my dad got me into comic books when I was young, so there's that too. So yeah, I was pretty much set. And I remember back in the day, I would read comics, and there was the character Shadow King, who took over Karma's body and made her like a giant mound of fat, because all he would do is just indulge on food all day, which was interesting because the way he acts doesn't look like he would do that, because he tries to make it seem like all he cares about is having power and stuff like that, but then he'll just be stuffing his face all day. So it might be just like a weird habit that he has. Big is big. Mars totally counts. Yeah, she's big in her own way, especially compared to Dingo, because she's making sure that man sleeps at night. She's like, Dingo, guess what tonight is? And he's like, oh boy. He's going to prepare to not be able to walk for a while. But her family likes Dingo, so no issues there. Okay, and now the question is, do I feel like coloring her hair? And the answer is no, so I'm going to make that her base color. That will probably bite me in the ass later, now that I think about it. And it's probably safer to do her fur. Her hair is probably not that as big as a deal as I'm making it sound, but it's definitely annoying. listen to this for a bit. I Smash. What are my favorite superheroes? Well, I grew up with a lot of the standard ones, so like Spider-Man, Batman, X-Men. Not too much of the DC ones, to be honest, because a lot of them seem, I don't know, like boring doesn't fit the words I'm looking for. They just seem kind of basic compared to the Marvel ones. And then the only time they're really interesting is when they're more limited and grounded, or have like a decent flaw that puts them in like a disadvantage. Because like with Superman, he's only weak against like 2 things, and very rarely does he get overpowered naturally without those weaknesses being used to exploit him. So he just seems like pretty boring to me personally. But like Spider-Man is like such a relatable character because he's trying to like balance his normal life with his superheroing, and it gets in the way a lot. So you see him struggle and try to figure out what's the right thing to do in those situations. X-Men is interesting because they're technically superheroes, but because of the way they have their powers, they're basically involved in racism because of how that works in their universe. Because I always thought that was interesting, because it's like you have a bunch of superheroes, but for some reason the X-Men are the ones that are, or mutants are the ones that are, looked down on and stuff like that. And that's why in some situations people thought that Spider-Man was a mutant in the comics. It's like, oh, he's definitely a mutant, come on. Because they didn't know that his webbing is artificial, like he makes it himself and not organically. And it's mostly the webbings that they go off of. They don't know about most of his other abilities other than sticking to walls and having super strength. They don't know about the other aspects of it. But I always thought that was an interesting little tidbit on characters like that. Yeah, Batman's just more interesting. The only time I dislike Batman is when he knows a little bit too much in some situations. Like, it makes sense when he prepares, like when you see him like actually studying and stuff like that, but there's like sometimes a scenario where something very obscure would come up and he just happens to know like the history of it somehow. So it feels better when we actually see him taking the time to learn about whatever the subject matter is. So like, say for example, he's fighting against, I don't know, let's just say the Riddler. And so he would have to like look up certain subject matter based on whatever it is the Riddler is basing his riddles on. So he has to be a little bit more knowledgeable in those areas just so he can keep up. But when it's like something super technical, it's like, okay, how the hell did you know how to do that? And granted, he spends a lot of money on technology in order to circumvent some of that. But I like it more when we actually see him being an actual detective, because that's what makes him more fun. Which is funny, because that's what DC means in DC Comics, Detective Comics. Although it's funny when it's called DC Comics, because then it means Detective Comics. Yeah. It's more of a writer thing. Because same thing happens with Spider-Man, where you'll see him go through situations where you're seeing character growth, or like something that influences him in certain ways, but then the writers will like shift things around and it no longer is making sense or interesting. Kind of like what they did with Deadpool how they made Deadpool part of the Secret Wars when he wasn't originally there, and they made him the reason why the Venom symbiote is crazy. And I'm like, no, you're just ruining Venom at that point. Or like they came up with the symbiote god, and I thought that was stupid. It's like, we didn't need a symbiote god. It was a very simple thing. It's like, oh, here are these creatures that both bond with their hosts and enhance them in whatever ways they want, and they eventually, you know, absorb them and adapt them to a degree depending on the host. And then that's it. We didn't need like a whole fucking god for that. So yeah, depending on the writing and story arcs, certain aspects of comics can be really stupid. So often I choose to cherry pick which headcanons I go off of, or which canons I go off of, because there are just some additions to the story or to the lore that just don't make sense to be there. That's why the Batman 2022 was an interesting movie, since Bruce wasn't a perfect crime. I still need to watch that. I have not watched that one. Like, I liked Batman's earlier days with like Year One, where he was trying to figure out how to be Batman. And at first, when he was trying to be a crime fighter, he didn't wear a mask. He just wore like facial makeup in Batman Year One. And like when he got his ass kicked, he told Alfred, he's like, okay, they weren't afraid of me. Like, because he put like a fake scar on his face and stuff like that, so that way if they tried to identify him, they would focus on the scar more than his actual face. And so, but like even then, he got his ass kicked while trying to, you know, crime fight, and so that's how he was trying to be more creative about his approach. And that part it makes it fun. I didn't even know the Penguin had a show. But yeah, I definitely need to watch Batman 2022 to see how that was. But yeah, like I like seeing Batman develop how he gets to where he gets to. Because like especially with the earlier Batman cartoons, you would see him try to figure everything out. Or if he had to develop something, he needed like samples and stuff, and he had to like, and you would see him like fail and then have to try again, and it would take him like a lot of time. And meanwhile, as he's like trying to find the answer to something like an antidote or whatever, you know, the villains are still doing shit. I even like the episode where the villains put Batman on trial, and they tried to go off of the statement of Batman's the reason they are the way they are. But then the lawyer that Batman was paired with, she like proved that a lot of the villains' issues had nothing to do with Batman for a majority of the time, and the villains actually ruled that Batman was not guilty. They're like, yeah, you're right. We can't argue this. And sure, they were still going to try to kill him, but it was interesting to see that they all agreed, like, yes, Batman is not the reason why they became the way they are. So yeah, stuff like that was super fun. I still love the episode where they're talking. It's called "Almost Got Him," and it's all the villains talking about the times they almost killed Batman. Excuse me, voice. Talking too much. Anyway, it was when they were talking about how they almost killed Batman, and when they get to Killer Croc, goddamn. My throat's getting hella dry. God, see, this is why I don't talk a lot. But he gets to Killer Croc, and he just says, "So I had Batman cornered," and the other villains are like, "Yeah," and then I threw a rock at him, and all the villains are just stare at him. Yeah, it's the one where they're all just playing poker and shooting the shit. And then you find out that Killer Croc was Batman the entire time, and it was like, what the fuck? See, those are good times with Batman. That's why Batman's such a fun character, because it feels more grounded and more interesting with his villains. Yeah, and they're all looking at him. He's like, "It was a big rock." Okay, so I think we're good, other than messy spots here and there. Let me darken this under her veins. Okay, let me change songs. But yeah, shit like that is what makes the whole series interesting. We'll probably put a texture on the box later. Oh yeah, he kept the giant penny. Yeah, they did a good job with Killer Croc. I do like the version from the Batman because he looks more anthropomorphic, but the original version where he has a skin condition is definitely the better version. And then Baby Doll was definitely a fun character in the original animation. I like how they tackled her character. Let's try to grab all this. Yeah, I liked it until I feel like later in the season or in the series, it was kind of getting a little messy. Like, I feel the first season or two was a lot more grounded. It feels like later down the line it was getting a little bit messy when Robin and Batgirl show up. The Dracula movie was really good, though. And then Return of the Joker was awesome for Batman Beyond. Batman Beyond was such a good series. It sucks that it was pretty short. Yeah, that's when they had like a lot of restrictions on Batman for some fucking reason. It's like, oh hey, yeah, you can do that, except we're gonna fucking cripple the amount of characters you can use. And I think that was because they were like being licensed out or whatever the case was. Which is really dumb when you're trying to sell a series. Because that kind of because Marvel has that issue with characters like Shumagoroth. Which would have been awesome for him to show up in Doctor Strange, but instead we got the other one, the squid one. But they look so fucking similar, so it was almost like, oh, is that Shumagoroth? I was like, no, it's the other character. Yeah, that was so stupid. It's like, how are we gonna tell Teen Titans Robin from this Robin? It's like, it's very clear that they're not the same character. Especially if they're going off of a different name. Because, like, once you do that, then it's really fucking obvious. But it's not hard to tell. They're two different shows. And clearly one acts different than the other. So they're two different time universes, so I don't know, people are just dumb. Yeah, that was just so fucking stupid. It's like, well, they'll get them confused with the movie version. It's like, no, they won't. Especially if they're like if they're like, you know, veteran comic book readers. They know damn well there's so many fucking different versions of characters now. Like, just from Marvel alone, it'd be like, okay, you have Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, Web of Spider-Man. Like, even if they have like similar events or storylines going on, it's still like different arcs and different time points and shit like that, or whatever the case may be. And then you have like Ultimate Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2099. Those are all different characters. Like, even with Ultimate Spider-Man, you have two different versions of Spider-Man, because you have Miles Morales and you have Peter Parker, which are obviously different characters. Like, this was not a issue at all. Like, obviously they're afraid that common people wouldn't be able to know the difference. It's like, oh wait, I thought Robin, I don't know, let's just say for example Robin had wings. It's like, wait, I thought Robin had wings. It's like, no, that's a different Robin, or a different version. And like, once somebody explains that, then the person will just say, oh, okay. And then they'll just say whether or not they like the ones with wings or not. That's it. That's the extent of the conversation. Maybe they'll get pissy and not want to watch the one that doesn't have wings, but that's kind of it. I don't know where else you would go with the with that scenario. But if they like the series enough, they're gonna watch it. Like, damn, or read it, which one you're going for. Me, I'm just like, yeah, cool. Like, unless it like severely pisses me off, like the live action Titans thing did, I was like, yeah, no, I'm not watching that. I'm not watching that train wreck. Unless it's like a situation like that, then I'm most likely going to watch it at some point. There we go. Okay, got her hair. What color top should she wear? It's sadly why I have a hard time getting people into American comics, because, oh yeah, when it comes to American comics, the problem is that there's so many issues and so many different arcs and stuff going on simultaneously that's really hard to know where to start. Because at the time, both Marvel and DC were having the problem, mint green, they were having the problem of light purple. We can do both. Like a mint green, light purple. But they were having the problem of like constantly releasing issue 1s all the time, because they're trying to get new readers, But then it's like, but then it's like you're making it complicated because your comics will reference other events going on or other comics, and you're making it more and more difficult. Which is why people like reading manga, because manga has a beginning, middle, and end. Slobbing out with a gray t-shirt. Let's see how this looks, and then we'll decide if we do a gray t-shirt. But yeah, like that's why people like reading manga, because manga is very clear on what you're reading, where to start. Even if there's a spin-off, it's super clear, so there's no confusion. How's something like this? Almost like a tie-dye type of top. Now the only problem with this is filling in the gaps. You know what? It'd be easier if I make it one color first and then do that, because that way I can fill in everything first. Yeah, so let me do a solid color first and then I can do that. But yeah, that's why manga is much more popular. Yeah, like some of the comic books try to condense things where they put them in like a collection set, so that way it's like, okay, here's the full story, here's like the most important parts of the story that you need to read, or that you should read, ignoring any side stuff here and there. So they basically just make omnibuses for them, which is a good idea. It's like if you're trying to sell the main story, just condense it all into a book or two or three, however, depending on how big it is, and just make it focus on all the main points of the arc. Like don't like make a Spider-Man story and then for whatever reason you have the spin-off of Ghost Rider dealing with the situation and somehow that's important. Like, don't do that. Just focus on whoever's the main character for the story or for the event and go from there. Yeah, that's like pretty much the smartest route you can go for that kind of stuff. Because other than that, there's nothing really more you can do, because it's just going to be confusing with having like 50 like a 50 issue arc, but then you have like another 30 from another character's perspective. And then sometimes they don't line up very well. Like I forget where this happened, but it was like a moment where Spider-Man in one comic like got into a fight and his outfit gets ruined. But then in another comic, like this was like another character's comic, like they reference Spider-Man having that going into that fight, but he comes out with his costume still intact. Or like he doesn't get any damage on his costume at all during the fight. So it's just kind of like, wait, that's not how it happened, type of thing. So you have that problem of where you have too many people working on the same issues. And then of course, a lot of the time, writers don't communicate with each other. So one comic might contradict another comic. They've made a Fat Venom mod for her Marvel Rivals. Hold on, let me look this up. Well, if I can get a good look at him. It's alright, it's funny. Not bad. I always think it's interesting that people can mod games like that. It's like, damn. If I had the know-how, the things I would do. And again, it's probably not as difficult as I'm making it sound. It's probably really easy once I learn what to do. Okay, I think we got all of the shirts, so now we can do this. There we go. Has like a tie-dye pink, or tie-dye mint green to purple. All right, what color are her shorts? Reminds me of Lara Croft. And I should save, because I don't know when I last saved. How about like a darkish gray? Because obviously full black it won't work. With the edges and stuff like that, white. So like this. Actually try that color, see how that works. That might be too dark. Make it a little bit lighter. Gray works. Okay. I'll make it a little bit lighter. Or you know what? I don't really draw her with like white pants very often, so I'll make it white with the black stripes. Or with the gray stripes. Because I don't really draw her in bright pants very often. So we'll do that. Just Skylar coming home to his wife snacking. And he would just be like, couldn't wait for me to get home, huh? Actually, save me the headache in doing it this way. You know damn well they have fun on their date nights. Where they send the kids to one of the grandparents. And Skylar just prepares a feast. Select this, make sure I got everything. Yeah, that's fine. Maybe erase a little bit underneath the tail, just in case. Alright, then we'll do the gray parts. And let me swap songs. Where's part 2? There it is. Thank you. Yeah, it does look like a nice summer outfit. Let's make the gray a little bit lighter. Like this kind of gray. That's better. Fill in the blanks. Alright, let's get flying battery. Yes, 10-minute one. Okay, next are accessory stuff. Got her ring. Would you ever imagine that an obese feline would wind up as one of your most popular? No? No, I would never. I don't think I would have ever thought that. Especially since she wasn't the first character in mind for her comic. It was a completely different character, and that weight gain comic was gonna come like way later down the line. And the only reason why it got jump started was because of the whole Hetty thing. So yeah, she definitely came out of nowhere. And I'm glad that people like her. It's still interesting when people would tell me that they've been reading iHat since they were in high school, or following my stuff since they were in high school, and I'm like, oh my god. And then part of me is like, I'm so sorry. It's like, I know my stuff is trash. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get better. I mean, to be honest, like, I honestly don't care if people think that my stuff isn't good. because I'm just enjoying myself. And yeah, if I'm like trying to make a proper story, I'm gonna, you know, critique myself and thinking that something isn't right or could be better, which was why I did the other endings for iHat. But other than that, I'm just trying to have fun and letting people join the ride. But that's pretty much my view of it. It's like I'm just drawing what I want to draw and letting you guys help support it if you want. If you think it's nice, if you like it and you want me to do more. So that's ultimately the idea. It's like, welcome to this fat kitty. And then I still like the main idea of iHat focusing solely, iHat and Black Circus, so focusing solely on unimportant background characters. Like, compared to the eventual World Gates reboot slash continuation, it'll be fun to see like the characters from iHat and Black Circus show up in the background of those comics later down the line. Because those who are in the know would be like, oh shit, it's so and so. And I'm slowly doing that with iHat and with iHat like the side stories and Black Circus and all that. I'm just really picky about where characters are and whether or not they would show up in a certain location, because I don't want to just throw them in there when they shouldn't be there. Because that was one of the problems that I had with the original. Well, okay, in neutral ending for iHat was more treating it as if it wasn't part of World Gates. And then later on I did include it. And I will talk to her later, because I am streaming right now. So I will talk to her in 10 minutes. Anyway. But yeah, like when I decided to redo it with true ending and all that, that was one of the reasons why, because I wanted things to make more sense. And so like the likelihood of them coming across certain characters is a lot lower. Like, I will say, when things ramp up in World Gates, when like villains and stuff show up, that's when the characters in iHat get a little bit more involved. Like, let's just say like a bunch of Gadians and demons and stuff like that show up. That's when there's a little bit more focus of like, okay, did these characters get affected by them? So maybe there's like a moment of like Skylar making sure that Marci or his kids or whoever is safe and all that, and you know, he's just blowing fire just to keep them at bay. Like, he's not a powerful character, but he's at least gonna try to defend his family, type of situation. Like, you'll see something like that happen. Glad that you're still having fun. Oh yeah, and that's why I stopped doing commissions, or stopped taking as much commissions, because the commissions were just somehow making it less fun. And that's why I stopped doing it. So doing it the way I'm doing it now ensures that I keep having fun. And that's why we have like the Fat Lovers Club, so that way I can still draw Awaken art, but then I can still draw like my own stuff or unrelated stuff. Or the collector's sets. The collectors let me experiment, as well as draw like other themes that I wanted to do. So I get to experiment with like art techniques and stuff, and then I can draw whatever I want to draw. Yeah. And sometimes it sucks when people come asking if I'm doing commissions or when I'll be open, because on one end I don't want to outright say I'm never going to do commissions ever again. Like, I'm always going to keep that possibility open, but I'm just fine doing my own thing. So if I ever do open for commissions, it will be on like a blue moon type of scenario, because I think I'm just in the mentality of, that is not the button I wanted to press, and now we're gonna, yeah. Anyway, I'm just in the mentality that I have to really be in the mood to do commissions, because I know I know what it comes with now, and so it's really hard to want to do them. So it's really good that people are interested in like buying the art sets of whatever characters I pick for them, or my own characters here and there, because not only does it show that people are interested in those characters or whatever it is I pick, but that they're willing to support it. Discord is having an API outage right now, so sending photos is becoming a bit tricky. Good to know. Gonna make some makeshift design for the box. But yeah, like, doing things to my own tune definitely keeps me interested in stuff. Like, even though I want to draw different themes and all that, you're always hearing me talk about like more weight gain ideas for like weight gain stories, because I have like so many things I want to do. And then with the other themes, it's basically the same thing. Like, for all the types of different stories I can come up with weight gain, I can equally come up with the same things for the other themes. So it's just constantly keeping me motivated and creative. So basically the well is basically infinite because of all the stuff I'm interested in, and it just keeps me excited. And then anytime I see like something interesting, like, you know, like Bora Bora Honeymoon, or like Bad Guys or Beastars, or Marvel movies and stuff like that, like basically anything just keeps me motivated and creative and want to do everything. And it's like, damn, if I could only just find immortality. Of course, you know, if the planet ends, then that's a whole other issue, but nothing I can do about that. But outside of scenarios like that, man, if I can just live forever. Then I will draw forever. And of course, you know, stay in a condition that allows me to draw forever. Viro, not a weight gain artist, I swear. Exactly. You know, with her frame like this, it would make a decent shot for an alternate Marci card art. Yeah, there's a lot of artwork that I could use for like alternate arts in the future. So basically build up on that too. Or this could even be like a support card, where call it like caught snacking or something, and be like, oh, this while you control Marci, I don't know, I'm just gonna make up something because I will probably change it later, but like, while you control Marci, gain 5 GP for each food card you control, or something like that. And while you control Marci, you may add a food card from your deck or scrap to your hand, because she keeps like getting more food. So yeah, just little fun shit like that. Anyway, let's put this in another folder so that way it'll be easier to mess with this. Just some random design on the box. But yeah, my entertainment will be endless as long as I'm constantly being motivated by more and more art. And even from like other artists where I'll be like, oh, that's a really good idea, I should do my own version. So like I'll see like a comic that has a really decent idea of something, but and it goes two ways. Either I just really enjoy the comic that I read, or there'll be like a small moment where I'm like, I feel this could have been better. And I'll just like keep it in mind for the next time I get a chance to work on something different. And then pull up the story that I want to do my take of. Because obviously in the beginning of there was clear references to heady stuff. Like, you know, Skylar going underneath the table and stuff like that. And then it became its own thing. Alright, well, I'm gonna call it for now. Or, you know, let me color the cookie in her mouth first before I stop. God damn it. Control D, or Z. So let me color the cookie in her mouth and then I'll call it. But yeah, I'm gonna stop for now and finish this off for tonight's stream. But thank you everybody for coming. Always enjoy having these streams and chatting with you guys about, you know, more ideas and stuff like that. I mean, honestly, just these conversations alone just keeps me more motivated because, well, we're always just, you know, shooting the shit and coming up with more ideas for what the characters can do. And if I feel it doesn't fit a character, then I'll just use another character for the idea, so that way we don't lose the idea. So it's just going to be endless. Let's be honest, this isn't the worst thing you've caught me doing. Exactly. Remember Alan Moore saying that the importance is to read books, or read bad books, and by extension, bad media. Yeah. Expose yourself to everything so you can learn from it and improve. Exactly, and sometimes I will recognize people from streams and comments and Discord and all that. Like I'll see somebody make a post on like somebody else's artwork and be like, "Oh, I know that person," or "I've seen that person's comments before." They look at my stuff, and then I've had people that I recognize like Pyrocynical, or at least I assume that was him, show up in the stream once or twice. So that was always fun. But Rainbow Art Passion, please. If I do draw Rainbow Passion, I have to draw her covered up on stream. But if it's just like more artwork in general, then yeah, I should draw her again sometime. But I have something else in mind for the next collector set that I'm gonna work on. But yeah, just to also inform, I'll probably say this again later tonight for the next stream. But I'm gonna keep streams to Mondays through Thursdays. I think I'm gonna try that out. So that way Friday, Saturday, and Sunday I can have more time for myself to work on, you know, the not safe for work art and other things that I can't stream. But yeah, again, thank you for coming, and I will see you guys again tonight. All right, you guys take care. Bye bye.